Over the last few months, I have set aside $75,000, ladies and gentlemen, in order to assist any flat earthist in helping to disprove themselves by flying over to Antarctica simply so that they can capture what is known as a midnight sun. Now, in the months that I was doing this and I set aside this money for a video, I found out that there was an entire story brewing in the flat earth community where people had, as of a couple days ago, actually went out and did the same thing. So about 6 years ago, I made a video titled Flat Earth Time. Now, discussing the flat earth, like any conspiracy on YouTube, is one where I don't know how YouTube handles it in search rankings or whatnot. Anytime YouTube gives this blue blurb, it's usually them jumping in to get in front of any possible misinformation. So I want to start off by basically asking the audience, do you guys believe in a flat earth or a globe earth? Are you a flat earther or a glober? Okay, these are the terms we're going to be using. So I myself believe in a globe earth, okay? But I am somebody that is totally open to debate and discussion. And that's why I decide to do my own research, look for my own research, and of course, use mathematics, science, physics, all the tools that God and anything imaginable has given to us to help debunk actual points. Now, when I made that video 6 years ago, it was like a 50-minute video where I kind of was like looking through the most common flat earth things at the time. You know, I was looking at like old 4chan posts, old like posts anywhere on social media of people just getting into arguments. But the thing about it is this has evolved into a situation that is far larger than I ever even considered. For the last couple like weeks, if not months, my research into the flat earth has taken me to websites like flatearth101.com. where one believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them, a quote by Aldous Huxley. So again, if you look into it, this is a community of people that want to prove the flat earth model over the more, currently widely accepted globe model. So according to them, our mission is to spread the truth about the flat earth, plain and simple. So, of course, over here, they've got plenty of videos like 200 Proofs, where one individual known as Eric Dubé, I guess this would be considered like a messianic figure in this community. Somebody has produced 200 proofs that the Earth is not a spinning ball. And if you go down here real quickly, one of the proofs is actually downright brain dead. For instance, one of their proof has them going around with train tracks. Surveyors, engineers, and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their project. Canals, railways, bridges, and tunnels, for example, are always cut and laid horizontally. So again, just because they're not accounting for the curvature, let's not forget trains go over hills and whatnot, actual inclines far larger than the actual incline of the natural curvature of the Earth, assuming you're going in a flat trajectory. Yes, this is something that you can find footage of on the internet. Again, with a lot of these proofs, debunking them is not as, difficult as one would imagine. There's a YouTuber that I've been watching for like a long time now known as Professor Dave, who covers a lot of intellectual scientific stuff on the internet. For instance, on his channel, you'll find catalytic hydrogenation of alkyl. So for example, on his channel, you'll find things like the catalytic hydrogenation of alkenes and alkynes, okay? And again, if that doesn't interest you, what may interest you is him debunking creationists. What may interest you as well is him debunking Bill and Terry's excellent adventure in the Matrix. Where again, if you watched my Metal Gear Solid video recently and you ever looked up Terrence Howard's multiplication, or sorry, what was it, 1 times 1 equals 2? Yeah, this is a great other channel that also debunks that nonsense as well. Again, there's a lot of people in this pseudo-scientific grifting community, and it's great to actually have educators and people involved in actually academia being able to debunk these individuals. And again, the more and more you look into it, for instance, like NASA fails. NASA fails is part of the top 10 flat earth proofs by another person known as Andrew Lankies. So for instance, they go over a bunch of NASA stuff like bubbles in space, NASA's CGI blunders. This is a huge thing, by the way, too. You know all those photos of Earth that you've seen from NASA and pretty much every space agency out there? Yeah, a lot of that shit is CGI. Now, again, I like to bring up the actual point. Tons of countries, not just the United States, has a space program. Now, if you're thinking that tons of these countries who are actually opposed to each other, like the United States and the Russian Federation, both these nations have active space programs, and if they're somehow being very disagreeable with a lot of things, especially in the geopolitical space, how the fuck do these two countries decide to say, yeah, if the Earth is actually flat, we should keep that down? Hey, Uncle Sam, don't let your people know about the actual flat Earth. Sure. Don't worry, Ivan, I got you. And that doesn't even include the other various countries that also have active space programs as well. It's fucking insane that for countries that don't agree with each other, somehow their space programs can all just deliver perfectly, brilliant CGI. That doesn't also involve big companies that are now allowing really rich people who have the money to go up to space for something known as space tourism and confirm, much like the astronauts of yesteryears, that the Earth is in fact a round fucking planet. But again, you go down into it, for instance, and they start going, NASA's budget is $52 million a day, and all we get is a lot of CGI. Saturn, CGI Earth, fucking CGI Mars. That shit is CGI. I wonder what, people in the space exploration game, like Virgin Galactic, I think it's Blue Origin from Jeff Bezos, or Elon Musk's SpaceX, which they also produce real actual photography that you can watch. For instance, this image of the Earth that clearly shows actual curvature is from a private company, SpaceX. Again, if all of these people in the private, public, government sector can agree on something, this would be a pretty difficult conspiracy to, again, keep hidden down. And of course, the more you go down into it, nobody in human history, as far as I know, has taught the world was flat. And that is from an individual known as Brian Cox. This individual is also a professor, and one of the quotes that they're using, from my understanding, doesn't really even exist, or it must be so out of context if it does, because this individual is straight up making fun of flat earthers. In fact, obviously he doesn't believe in the entirety of the flat earth. And a point he even raises in this one short that I'm showing you is that if the flat earth was real, is every pilot suddenly part of this vast conspiracy to make sure that nobody knows the real shape of the actual fucking planet? This is insanity. And again, this took me less than a second to find on the internet. Why can't flat earthists do the same? So again, according to NASA, every single culture and religion prior to them has taught, apparently, that the earth was flat, not necessarily round. Which is actually patently false. Like, if you follow the second largest religion in the world, Islam, for instance, again, this is out of the scope of just science, one of the actual verses from the Quran straight up mentioned that the earth is in fact in an egg shape. So this Quranic verse, for instance, is derived from the Arabic word for ball, or yakavir. This verse clearly informs us the Earth is round. Since the Earth is not exactly round, a specific reference to its shape is given in Surah 79, verse 30. The only reason I brought religion into this mix, ladies and gentlemen, is because, again, to disprove this person, no. In fact, a religion did cover this. And if you even look deeper into most of these religions, I'm sure none of them are completely discounting or even really get into the discussion of the shape of the Earth. I think even humans back then, who probably did believe the Earth was flat, or, the Earth was basically the center of the solar system, a lot of these beliefs changed with time as scientists and, researchers came with new technology and new ways to actually apply science and figure out actually how the Earth was shaped, and really that we weren't the actual center of the universe. Again, you don't have to really go out of your way. Like 12 years ago, Felix Baumgartner actually did a space jump world record where people even tried to debunk this by saying, look at the curvature there. And I believe this is fisheye lenses. But generally, when you have the camera and the lens, which was identified obviously in this video, people can defish to an extent. And obviously, this isn't really that high up in space even. You wouldn't even call this space. This is, I believe, 37 kilometers above ground. So again, for Felix, this is, again, a pretty big world record to hit. But even at that height, the Earth is such a massive, massive entity that even at this height, you wouldn't just see the oceans that surround the United States. I believe this is filmed right above Nevada, which again, at 37 kilometers up in space, you still wouldn't be able to see the ocean that connects to Florida, or like the eastern side of the United States, or even the fucking Pacific Ocean towards California. This is just insanity. In fact, even with gravity, it does show up at number 9. Gravity is magic. Newton's theory has never been proven. Oh, man. Oh, you know, sometimes I'm on the internet and I look up shit like this and I think this has to be it has to be a parody. I'm getting trolled. But, you know, the older I get, the more I look at shit like this, the more I realize I'm not actually being trolled. These people that believe this shit. Gravity is easily explained by density and buoyancy. Things rise or fall based on their density and the medium in which they travel through. Yes, if you're looking at this image of the Sydney Opera House in Australia in, you know, just a context, yeah, they're literally upside down, apparently. Gravity doesn't fucking exist. Centrifugal force doesn't exist, doesn't matter. Now, it's true that I guess gravity is a theory, or I guess there is a law of gravity, but in science, a theory like gravity has been tested, and at some point you're getting to an area where you're actually splitting hairs. Yes, even if something like this you would call a theory, gravity is pretty much proven, okay? It's not really a fucking topic of debate, all right? You want to see how gravity is real? Look at this shit. I can jump up and jump back down. Guys, come on! What are we fucking doing, okay? Jesus Christ! You know, it's like people who act like, whoa, hold on a minute, hold on. Are you really gonna believe that the Earth is spinning at like 80,000 kilometers a second or something, or an hour? No, not a second. And you can't feel it, Muda? The reality is these people do not even want to believe inertia is an actual experience, right? These are the same people that if you try to explain to them, yeah, if you get into a car and decide to like rip down the road at like 130 kilometers an hour, yes, your body also accelerates to 130 kilometers an hour, which is why if you hit a pole, you fly out of your windshield Grand Theft Auto style, okay? These are the same people, if you tried explaining the Coriolis effect to them, they would just tell you that it's complete nonsense, okay? I think anybody that's played even 5 seconds of Call of Duty 4, and you know exactly what mission I'm talking about, can understand the Coriolis effect and how the curvature and the rotation of the Earth can affect and cause these, you know, actual occurrences in the real world. Now, the Flat Earth community, ladies and gentlemen, is such a grift at this point, okay, that it's created its own set of actual celebrities. For instance, one of them is Jeranism, who is the opposite of mainstream. Okay, so the opposite of mainstream in this situation is trying to teach me all about the magical world of cryptocurrency. God damn, it always has to involve some level of cryptocurrency. Why do you trust these liars? The flat truth of the new moon. Antarctica is not a continent. PBS? More like pure BS. Fake spacewalk? How honest are globe believers? I'd say definitely more than the flatards, that's for sure. But let's go into the mix here. And of course, you've got other people like Flat Earth Dave or Dave Weiss, who run something known as the Flat Earth Podcast. And the Flat Earth Podcast also distributes a Flat Earth map application. And of course, if you gift the app, you can earn Dollar Domes. But if you look at these actual applications, you too can buy a Flat Earth map for $3. Again, it's a grift. It's a monetized grift for a lot of these people to be making constant streams, earning super chat revenue, selling these bullshit applications, with, again, also in-app purchases, in-app subscription services too. I don't ever want to hear people give Marquise Brownlee shit for the fucking wallpaper app when this dog shit clearly exists. The clock even features Friend Finder. Find other people, flat earthers, around the world. I wonder if anybody's been laid through this app, by the way. It would be fucking insane. Video and phone calls. It's like a whole social network for psychopaths. God damn. And of course, you can start to look at some of these channels and they'll talk about no flat earther will ever explain sunsets. I mean, if you don't believe in the Earth being a globe and rotating, then how the fuck am I going to... Come on now, it's not going to happen. SpaceX nonsense. Oh, man. I can't wait for Elon to get to know about this community. God damn. So, in all of this, ladies and gentlemen, one massive event has been happening that I discussed earlier in the video, and that is the final experiment. So, the brainchild behind the final experiment was a pastor known as Will Duffy, who decided, hold on a minute, if we've got flat earthists and globe heads, how do we find a way to make sure we can have one experiment that will either prove one side and completely disprove the other? So he actually explains a little bit of it. Listen to this.
And then one day, I was watching an interview, and that is where I finally got the idea for the final experiment. It was David Weiss. He is best known as Flat Earth Dave. And here's what he said.
One of the arguments that people give is on a flat Earth, you can't have a 24-hour sun, a midnight sun in Antarctica. And I totally agree. But there is no midnight sun in Antarctica.
That's it. Antarctica and the 24-hour sun. But most importantly, Dave Weiss made me realize the single most important thing when it comes to the final experiment is that both sides agree. Both sides agree that if there is a 24-hour sun, we live on a globe with Antarctica as an island at the bottom of it.
And that is how Antarctica became the Mecca and Medina, the Hajj for the flat earthists, okay? Wild shit. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a actual bulletproof point. This pastor who, honest to God, man, this is some Phoenix Wright lawyer levels of like, all right, we found that one point, let's bring them together and talk. So here on camera, you guess that David Weiss guy I talked about earlier, and he basically said, there ain't gonna be that midnight sun in Antarctica. So this is what started the final experiment. And in the final experiment, there were a few participants, right? You actually had 3 flat earth participants and 12 globe heads. Now, I want to add myself to that because I also consider myself to be a globe head as well. But of course, if you can look into this, there were 3 people that decided to jump into this situation. You had Jeranism, who we talked about earlier. You have Kingdom in Context and Austin Whitson. On the other side, you've got Dave Keegan. And of course, you've got our friend Professor Dave, but you got all these guys who are globe heads. So actually, I want to give a real big round of applause to the 3 flat earthists that decided to step into the lion's den. It's not easy when you're actually challenging yourself against other people. So the fact that they went out of their way to do their own research is actually quite commendable. But of course, this whole situation ended up with them accepting a free trip to Antarctica. Which shows me that if you want a free fucking flight to Antarctica, all you have to do is pretend to be a fucking baboon on the internet and just completely believe and parrot the most brain-dead shit. According to the final experiment, anybody can join them in Antarctica this December for the final experiment, and the cost was $31,495, which is the regular rate through the company that they're using, which is Antarctic Logistics and Expedition. Again, one of the big discussions was nobody can go to Antarctica because the fucking government blocks you off. Not true at all, actually, because anybody can go as long as they have the money to go there. As far as my understanding is, I don't think any country has any hold on Antarctica, and most of the stuff there is basically for scientific research. But yeah, these people ponied up the money, or at least in the case of the flat earthists, they decided that they were just going to go on the goodwill of Will Duffy. So again, some of these individuals decided to crowdfund their adventure, some even self-funded. But in a lot of these situations, even some of the globe heads decided to take this free trip. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone's giving me a free $30,000 trip to go to Antarctica to shoot a fucking sun, I'm going to do it, okay? God damn, that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, at least just go for the meme. Even if you're going to take the biggest L of your life, at least you got to go to Antarctica. Dude, how many YouTubers start a career on this platform and be able to make any money, let alone go to Antarctica in a pretty impressive feat of scientific discovery? That, ladies and gentlemen, is just beautiful. And if you're looking at the time lapse of it, this is what a midnight sun looks like. So again, if you're looking very carefully, the sun, and this is captured in a 25-hour actual time lapse. Not once did the sun actually set, it did fly around completely. So this proved that the globe heads were well in the right over here. Okay, so finally, literally a day or two ago, in December of 2024, we have now on literally 1080p, at least 4K video footage, have disproven flat earthists. And in this case, the flat earthists who attended had to eat some goddamn crow. Now, our friend Jeranism is then asked and confronted, hey, buddy, after all this time of parroting the flat earth, and now that you finally did your research, what do you think? And this shows me some level of human growth. Listen to this.
Sometimes you are wrong in life. And I thought that there was no 24-hour sun. In fact, I was pretty sure of it. But I respect Will Duffy for being a stand-up guy, at least in the way that he kept saying it was true. I kept saying it wasn't. He said, do you want to go? I'll take you. And brought me here. And it's a fact. The sun does circle you in the south. So what does that mean? You guys are going to have to figure that out yourself.
No. Let me explain why the midnight sun actually is proving the globe exists, okay? So there is some growth. He took an L. But let me do the research for the people watching it, okay? Now, obviously, if you look at the Earth over here very clearly, this is, in fact, on a tilt. We're dealing with a situation where the axial tilt of the Earth is pretty considerable. At high altitudes, the sun does not set in summer. Rather, it remains continuously visible for one day during the summer solstice at the polar circle. For several weeks only, 100 kilometers closer to the pole, and for 6 months at the pole at extreme latitudes, midnight sun is usually referred to as a polar day. Again, if the Earth was this flat model you guys were saying, we would have seen the sun set. But instead, the Earth is in fact spinning, and that is why the sun was a midnight sun, quote unquote, which is why it never actually set. So yeah, let's not, tell people to not like, at least if you're gonna take the L, just say, bro, the Earth is actually fucking round. Simple as that. But at the end of all this, the thing that comes out of this is even if you try to disprove individuals like this, it's never enough. And that is a big, serious problem in this, right? Like, if you're looking into the flat earth community, the reality of it is like, for a lot of the people that are producing content in this sphere, they don't care necessarily about what the truth really is. A lot of these communities, and from my research into them, countless hours on the Discords, witnessing their debates, watching their live streams, they do not want to accept any scientific fact. In fact, if anything, they jump into a lot of these footage, a lot of these like pieces of information, and without actually understanding how to use the science that they should know, because they're parroting this as like experts, quote on, in this field, or at least people who are more knowledgeable than the average person, quote unquote, then this is a situation where like you need to be able to understand how to read things like, fucking aviation charts. You need to be able to understand, why these photos aren't CGI, why a lot of these Earth photos aren't necessarily computer generated imagery. But you're never ever going to get that. You're never going to get a level of concession, at least to the same level you saw just now. So yeah, flat earthists decide to go out and actually end up proving that the Earth was flat, only to realize very quickly that the Earth is round. And so for a lot of the people that are actually in this entire group, and look, when they asked a bunch of these like flat earthists, a good chunk of them denied. David Weiss denied a free trip. Eric Dubé denied a free trip. I mean, could you imagine why somebody would think that they should deny any free trip to Antarctica? Unless they know clearly that them going and being proven wrong, which is a very, very high likelihood of this happening, that is going to kill the grift entirely. So now, instead of, basically going on this one point that the midnight sun would prove that the Earth is actually round, I guess at this point it's about goalpost shifting. And in the coming weeks, in the coming days, hell, you'll probably see people move those goalposts, shift them around, and come up with some new bullshit. But today, at least, or in the last 2 days, I think for the most normie crowd out there, at least it's understood, and it should have been understood, that the Earth is actually a round planet. Now, the thing is, I really don't have any ill will to people that are flat earthists or anyone like that. I think that people who jump into camps like flat earthists or believe these conspiracies, I think there's a lot of underlying trauma, or there is some serious distrust of the government that isn't related at all to the flat Earth, which is more powering their belief than, just rejecting science in of itself, right? A lot of it just does come down to their distrust of the government. And I think really if we addressed all of that, if we addressed people in this situation and we addressed the root cause, people wouldn't be so prone to the dumbest conspiracy theories and waste years of their lives constantly professing them. But, ladies and gentlemen, the Earth, is it flat? Clearly not. Obviously not. And, the fact that we had to burn tens, if not thousands, hundreds of thousands, I would imagine, to go all the way to Antarctica to prove it to a bunch of YouTubers, well, that is actually a fact of 2024. What a way to top the year off, ladies and gentlemen. Honest to God. But honestly, I will say at the end of the day, my offer is still available, okay? If you are a Flat Earth channel right now, I will, for 2025, when we can do the Midnight Sun again, I will fly you out and myself on our dime, just so we can prove this over and over again. Because I think feeding people the L like this, especially when it comes to such blatant misinformation, is always worth the cost to admission. At the end of the day, my philosophy in life is money is best spent on your family, the people around you, the people who need it the most, and instead of buying a flashy supercar, it's always better to spend it on finding Jeff the fucking killer and disproving the flat earth. But ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.